I don't see it on live yet. Good evening, Dracut. Today is Thursday, April 30th, 2013, and this is your Dracut Connection. Welcome to the show, folks. We're going to have a live Zoom presentation to you tonight, and we have an excellent panel of people to come in and talk about the issues of today. But we just want to remind you that the Dracut Connection is a political talk show aimed at keeping the voters and taxpayers of Dracut informed as to what is happening both politically and civically around the town. You can join us on Zoom, Facebook, live streaming on the internet via DATV, or join us on Comcast Channel 8. We are live. You can not call us, but you can certainly text us through the Facebook page and what have you. But before we get into the agenda for tonight, let me introduce tonight's panel. I'm John Zemeny, former selectman from the town of Dracut here, and I'll be your lead host tonight. I'm joined tonight by a political activist who's going to be a little bit late, George Bowe, but we are also joined tonight by one of Dracut's best guys all around, great guys in the town of Dracut and politically astute analyst, Gordy Scott. Hi, Gordy.
How you doing, John?
I'm doing great. And we are joined by the chairman of the town manager's selection committee, community activist who's involved in a million things around town, as well as being a candidate for the town of Dracut selectman, Phil Tebow. Hi, Phil.
Oh, pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's nice to have you. But finally, but by all means not least, we have the Dracut's own mountain man, Brian Bond, and he's the creator of the Dracut Connection. Hi, Brian.
Hi, John. I'm the creator, only when you want to put the blame on. But you're doing a great job leading here. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you're having a good evening. We have a really packed show tonight. We've got a lot to go over. But before we get to that agenda, we also have our resident weatherman, the weatherman from Mill City Weather, Sean Kelly. Take it away, Sean.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me tonight on the Dracut Connection. Here's your forecast for tonight, dropping down to 49 degrees. Rain getting heavier later on tonight and into tomorrow morning, especially as we head into your Friday, 61 degrees, a little bit cooler on the coastline, especially the Cape and the Islands. Gusts of 30 to 40 miles an hour. It's possible for the coastline of Mass all the way up into the Cape and the Islands. Again, 61 degrees, AM rain. We should get some breaks of sun, especially in the afternoon hours, maybe around 3 or 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And then as we head into your Friday night, we're going to drop down to 50 degrees. It's going to be cloudy, and there could be a spot shower or two anytime after maybe 6, 7 o'clock tomorrow night. After that, heading into your Saturday, spot shower is possible. Otherwise, it's going to be cloudy. And then maybe again, we'll get some breaks of sun in the afternoon hours. 64 degrees for a high temp on Saturday. As we head into your Saturday night, rain's going to taper off, becoming partly cloudy, 43 degrees. We're going to drop down to. As we take a look at your exclusive 8-day forecast, Sunday is going to be the pick of the weekend, 72 degrees for a high temp. Next week is looking very nice right now. It could be a spot shower or two on maybe Tuesday and into Wednesday. But other than that, high temps are around 60 degrees. And that's it for now, everybody. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Sean, for that great weather report. Looks like we're going to have a great weekend, folks. At this point, we're going to switch over now. Brian, I know that you had a mountain climb today. Just briefly, can you do it briefly? Give me just a 1-minute synopsis.
Well, I hate to disappoint you, John, but we didn't climb a mountain. We did venture out and do a little bushwhacking. We stayed low, and we put in a couple miles just to get out in the woods and get some oxygen into the lungs. But we had fun.
Good, great, Brian. So now we're going to get into this topic of the China virus. And one of our experts that's good with all the analysts and analysis and what have you. Gordy Scott, take it away, Gordy.
Thanks, John. I'm just going to share my screen, just share with the people a couple sources of data here. As you can see from this chart, this is just a chart of new cases, charted day by day. You can see we go back from the 16th to up to today's date. Let me see if I can just move this over a little bit. You can see the entirety of where we are. So here now is where we are as of today, the latest data that we have. So you can see that the numbers are coming down. So the thing is the curve's coming down. So that's good news. But the big thing what I want to do is share here. Sorry, I just lost that screen. What I wanted to share with you is this chart. This shows us when we can actually open Massachusetts back up for business. So what we're looking for here is negative numbers down in this area here for 14 consecutive days. And you can see 6 out of the last 8 days have been negative. So we're starting to get the hospitalizations down to where we need to have them to open up. And then a couple more just data points I want to show the viewers. You can see right now we have 3,800 currently hospitalized with COVID-19. Here's one that's pretty important is the number of deaths. So we're in Massachusetts, we're pretty high. We're the third highest state in the country. I'm at 3,562. So I just want you to take a mental note of that number, 3,562. As I scroll down here, and this shows age groups. You can find this on mass.gov as well if you want to go into the details of this report. But the number I want to, if you remember, that number is 3,562. Out of those 3,562, 2,101 cases are in nursing homes or long-term care facilities. So that's a huge percentage of the total number of deaths. So I just wanted to point that out to the viewers. And one other data point I just wanted to show is right up here. You can see deaths with underlying conditions. This is a big one. So if you have high blood pressure, lung cancer, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, people with those kinds of conditions that have come down with COVID-19, 98.2% of those people have died from that. And you can see a healthy individual only has a 1.8% chance of dying out of those deaths. So just wanted to report that out there to folks so they have an understanding just kind of how things are shaping up here in Massachusetts. I'll pass it back over to you, John, for the breaking news I think everyone's tuning in for.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to go over briefly the stats as listed from today from the Dracut Board of Health. And there's 9 new cases today, Gordy. I think that's significantly down from the last couple of days. And there is a total of 282 that have been reported cases. There are 119 cases that are in recovery. And approximately, there's only been 1 death that we so far know about in Dracut. Unfortunately, no death is acceptable. But those are pretty good numbers. I know that the 282 is pretty high for our town, given the fact that we're only a population of 30, and maybe we can get Phil to tell us what he thinks that figure represents in terms of Dracut. But Middlesex County has been a hotbed in Massachusetts for some strange reason, and we don't quite know why, right? Do you have any take on that, Phil?
Well, I would tend to think it's because of some of the higher population, certainly within the Middlesex County area. I mean, you have Cambridge and certainly Lowell. I mean, the Merrimack Valley has it's essentially high density population. So you get people close together, of course, that's where you get the spread.
Right. Gordy, you have anything to add?
No, just wanted to make everyone aware that, a high percentage, 60% of the cases, over 60% of the cases are in nursing homes. So just keep that in mind. If you know anyone that's working at a nursing home, hopefully those people are getting tested going in there. I haven't heard one way or the other if those people, the medical people that are working up with those nursing home people are getting tested, but we hope so because that's where our deaths are really coming from. So let's just pray for those people there.
Governor Baker was pretty optimistic today But I do think that they're gonna play this game of extending it, which we can get later. We can get into it later on in the show towards the end on how the state and federal government is handling this. But I think that there's a game being played here where they're going to keep extending it, and we won't be out of this until June 1st. What do you say, Brian?
Well, I'm going to have a lot to say about that. I'm one of the folks that thinks that the government overplayed their hand. I think they've totally got it wrong right from the beginning, and we need to get back to work. There's a balance of being safe and getting back to work, and it's time for getting back to work to kind of get that level up a little bit. They haven't been providing us the opportunity to get back to work, the economy to get back to work, because if we don't, then we're all in trouble.
I think I totally agree with you. Anybody else have anything to add on this subject at this point? We can get back to it at the end of the show when we talk more about national and state politics. But if you have anything else you want to add, nobody? Okay, so we're going to move on. Brian, we've got a video that we're going to show right now. It takes about 3 minutes, and you're up, Brian.
All right, so we're going to put this up. This is we had a show last week. John and I went on, and we had talked about this event that's taken place, and it was about 20-minute stint. So I cut it down to about 4 minutes, John, and I'm going to share that with the folks right now and get this thing going.
This will set it up to why we're at where we're at on the managers thing. Don't hear any sound, Brian. Still don't hear it. Don't hear any sound, Brian.
A special broadcast this evening. I'm Brian Bond, and I'm joined here by John Zimini. We've got some breaking news, and John's the one who's got the information, so I'm just going to kind of leave it there. And
well, Brian, the Dracut Connection and myself has learned from several reliable sources that a majority of the Dracut Board of Selectmen are now ready to abandon the multi-$1,000 town manager search and appoint the new town manager at a special emergency meeting on Monday evening. That's this Monday evening, May 4th, which would have been, ironically, the election of new selectmen in town but because of the COVID, it's been postponed. Sources have said to me, several sources have said to me, that Chairman Jesse Forcier has asked for an emergency meeting to discuss the appointment of longtime town employee and now interim town manager to the full-time position of town manager. It has been learned that the chairman, Forcier, who had pledged previously to follow the process, has now flipped and will vote to abandon the process and make what will now be known forever as one of Dracut's most political appointments of a town manager. Ann Vandal has been serving for the last few months. Did such a great job of ferreting through all of the applications for this job. It was known that she was not a finalist. She was not on many of the people's final lists, and that according to sources that there was a lot of upset within town hall and among her friends, and particularly Joe Dracut, who has been the orchestrator of many coups like this in the past. This will be the second time in the long career of Joe Dracut that the former fire chief and the longest serving member of the Board of Selectmen will have single-handedly orchestrated the appointment of a highly political and underhanded man. Joe Dracut is known for having negotiated a golden handshake extension to the former manager, Dennis Pindak, back several years ago, when he single-handedly, behind closed doors, orchestrated a contract extension for 18 months and somewhere in the tune of a 27% pay raise to keep Dennis on, giving Dennis the highest retirement that he could possibly make as he goes out the door. Joe DeRocco is known for the backdoor arrangements that he has been able to orchestrate many times that do not benefit the taxpayers of this town. Well, Brian, that was a very good piece. That was awesome, Brian. Why don't we get a little bit of background on this between you and I? You know, we had that little session the other night, and we broke the story. And of course, nobody's given the Dracut Connection the credit for breaking the story. But we broke the story the night before. We had a copy of the letter that Ann Vandal sent, and we posted that at 2:00. And we had comments about it. And then all of a sudden, the Lowell Sun, the radio station, and everybody was panicking, going all over the place. Brian, why don't you give us your take?
John, we got almost 3,200 views on that video since then, and that was a 20-minute video. We wanted to shorten it down just to get the facts out, but it just shows another backhanded deal. From this group. We had Jesse Forcia, originally saying that he was going to let the process play out. And I've stated many times in my dealings with Jesse is that he's very weak. He's influenced very easily by other folks. And I knew he was going to flip. I called it. I said that Ann Vandal would be the next selectman. And it looks like he's flipped. And he can't handle the pressure.
Yep. So the pressure was from what one very outspoken political figure in town said today on the radio, said that it was a pressure-packed situation for them, and that group called the DeRocco Hughes Group had pressured him so much that he didn't say it, but he meant it, that Jesse succumbed. And yeah, he shows no leadership. But I wanted to turn to Phil, who was chairman of that committee. And Phil right away jumped on this and sent a letter. And Phil, why don't you give us a little bit about what you did and how you feel about it and what you think the committee feels?
So some of the background with me is that I started hearing some rumblings about it, and I also got a phone call from Meg McIntyre from the Lowell Sun. She had been doing a piece on essentially the selection committee. So, she gave me a call and we talked about how do I think it should be proceeding. And I certainly said I didn't want it to go through the election and be decided by essentially the next Board of Selectmen. I thought it belonged with this Board of Selectmen because they had charged the selection committee with winnowing through all the resumes. And as I've said previously, there was, if you stack them up, there was a good inch and a half worth of paper with resumes, with dozens and dozens of resumes. And so, we did our process. We followed the guidelines that the Board of Selectmen had set for us. It's not as if the selection committee did it on their own. We used a job description that was put together by the Board of Selectmen of all the attributes and the skills that they wanted a new town manager to have. This ended up being a 4-page job description that we were following. So it was intensive, and we're measuring each candidate against that job description. And so we winnowed it down to a number of people. And ultimately, we ended up with 4 candidates that we thought were essentially a spot-on match for what the resumes and for what the Board of Selectmen had asked that we looked for. And so we turned them over to the Board of Selectmen. Over the past few months, and past few weeks, I know Brian has been saying, "Oh, Jesse's going to flip," and I think everybody knows here that I have been defending him. That he's promised me that he will go through the process. He certainly gave me every indication that he would be following the process. And just a week ago, he was determined to follow the process. And so, I within this letter, I remind them that, each selectman, Joe DeRocco, Allison Hughes, Jesse Forcier, Tony Yarchinsky, and Tammy Tricilaris, they each picked a resident from the town. And that's a committee of 5 people out of a town of some 30,000 residents. So, these are people that they thought were the highest integrity, dedication to the town, and very honorable people. And I can't disagree with that. Those committeemen that I served with, John Crowley, Joe Wilkie, Charlie Canavis, and Kathy Patnod, excellent people. One of the best group of people I've ever served on a committee with.
So Brian, Phil, why don't you read that letter, because I'm sure people couldn't hear it, and I think
essentially I paraphrased the first two paragraphs, and then I go on to say the process has been delayed with the thought that the Board of Selectmen would like to conduct these interviews face to face. However, with the pandemic and the emergency orders by the governor, that nearly becomes difficult at best. And then the delay begins. And the delay is perpetuated by those who wish to bypass the process, by asserting that, we need to have these things face to face. We need to have the people in front of us for true transparency. So, it comes to the point, never let a good crisis go to waste, right? The Board of Selectmen must now act in an emergency session to act on the letter of ultimatum, essentially, that was put together by Ms. Vandal to either hire her as permanent town manager or release her from her interim duties and let her go back to her financials. And I think that's where she excels, to be honest. And I go on to say that I think the Board of Selectmen should release Ann Vandal from the interim duties and solicit for a new town interim manager. There are several sources that are available. The Collins Center, even Bernie Lynch has professional services that he could come in for 2 months, or know somebody that could come in for 2 months and handle this very easily. Or even better yet, conduct the interviews. You have 4 candidates. You can conduct it by Zoom. We're doing that right now. The Board of Selectmen have done public hearings with Zoom. The school committee does several other kinds of meetings with a similar application. The irony is that the appointment of Ann Vandal will happen under the same sort of application through Zoom. They're not doing it in public, face-to-face. And to be honest, that smacks of disingenuousness and malevolence. It is hypocritical. There's about 2 weeks. There is time remaining. Ann Vandal in her letter says that she would like to have this resolved in 60 days. Well, 60 days is more than enough to interview 4 candidates and then make a decision and negotiate a contract. That would probably take 2-3 weeks. Let's get on with it. I know I was talking with somebody about we have to put the new manager aside. We're in such dire straits with the finances and the emergencies and such like that, that we really shouldn't concentrate on economic development now. Well, there's economic development and there's economic recovery, and we need both. We need those more than ever at this particular point. I likened it to, the stock market crashes. Who are you going to talk to first, your accountant or your financial planner? Seems to me you talk to your financial planner first, because, the accountant's going to say, pull it all out and put it in your mattress. We don't need that. We need somebody who can hit the ground running and who has dealt with both economic hardship, recovery, and development. The letter from Ann says that she wants a 2-year contract. Well, if we make the wrong decision, this will go much longer than 2 years.
Correct. Phil, thank you very much for that that role you're playing here and the leadership that you're showing. At this point, we could have another discussion, but I have a special guest that's going to join us now and wants to join us just to give a little bit of a take on it. And we have her now on the line. I think Tammy Dristolaris, Selectman Tammy Dristolaris. How are you tonight? We don't see your face, but we can hear you. Are you there?
Oh, maybe I don't want you to see my face. Wait a minute. Here we go.
Yeah,
I'm there.
Hi, Tammy. Welcome.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Good evening.
Good evening. You look marvelous, Tammy.
Oh, sure. Yes, long day. But first I want to say, Phil, you have shown tremendous leadership throughout the entire process. I always knew that you would be a perfect member of the Board of Selectmen, and I would love for you to take my seat. But you've totally excelled at this, and I admire that, and I want to thank you for all of the leadership that you've shown, especially tonight. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. It's even hard for me to give my thoughts now because that I agree with you 100%, but I'm going to tell you how I feel. And so, I first learned of this quote emergency meeting from the secretary of the Board of Selectmen, which as a member of 5 selectmen, I should be hearing it from the chairman. And I sent the chairman several messages, never received one back. And I hear that, Teddy Panis got a response from the chairman when he was interviewing Warren Shaw. And I'm going to speak about that interview just for a minute because Warren Shaw and I don't see eye to eye on many issues, and we've had our differences, but we've also had our agreements. And in this case, what Warren Shaw said was very telling. Jesse flipped under pressure, and he doesn't know how it came to be that we're having a meeting on this and that there are now 3 votes, which only leads to me to believe one thing. People were talking, and it wasn't me. So when that happens, this is such an important decision that the town makes. This is somebody that's going to lead our town for hopefully 30 more years. It's a process. We started a process. Everybody agreed we'd hire the Collins Center. We used $8,000 of taxpayer money, and the taxpayers need to get their money's worth. We selected a member of the community that we thought would be the best person to sit on a team of a selection committee, work through all the candidates that applied, and they narrowed it down. I mean, they narrowed it down to 4 very qualified, strong, professional candidates. I was highly impressed with what I know about them. And I think it does a total disservice to Dracut and to the taxpayers and citizens of our town not to have the opportunity to interview them. Because let's face it, I only know Ann as the financial officer. I don't know what her skills are for town manager. I don't know what her goals for the town are. I don't know if she has any goals, if she's thought that far in advance. I don't know what her qualifications would be. But I have to think, why did they not put Ann forward? I have that in the back of my mind, and I'm not, Ann's a wonderful person. She's great at the finances of the town. I don't agree with everything she says. And sometimes I think we need to really strongly advocate for the schools and public safety. And I don't think we do enough of that, but we also can't at this time ask the taxpayers to pay anything else. And let's face it, if we promote someone to town manager now in the middle of a pandemic crisis, we can't financially afford that. We can't afford her replacement. We can't afford an assistant, and we can't afford a procurement officer. We're going to go bankrupt because we're going to get less funding from the state. It's a guarantee.
Well, Tammy, we want to thank you for taking the time to join us tonight.
You're welcome.
Give us a little bit of an insight of what you think. And I know that you're going to have a lot more to say on Monday. And, and I'm sure you'll be a leader on that committee on the selectmen like you have been for the last 6 years. And
thank you.
This is what we feel, as you know, is the biggest position, the biggest and most important thing the Board of Selectmen does. And I think you're taking a good stand.
Absolutely.
And hopefully you do something. I mean, there's nothing wrong with just following the process. And I think that's what most people want to happen. Follow the process. And don't give me that she should
commit to the process.
And we don't have anything wrong. We don't have anything against Ann Vandal either. There are things that I agreed with her on, there's things that I don't, but I think that some of the things that happened during her tenure have to be questioned, and nobody's done that. You're not going to even have the ability to do that in an open forum because you're not going to get this interviewer. So we thank you again for coming on. Does anybody else want to chime in and say anything?
Oh, my pleasure.
Just say, how's George doing?
Oh, George is great. I'm sure he's home, watching TV. I'm at the office still.
Tammy, this is Gordy. I just want to say thank you for being our select woman for 6 years. You did a great job. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate that very much, Gordy. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd certainly like to thank Tammy for making me her appointment for the selection committee. I think she could see the surprise on my face when she asked me, and I just found it such an honor. Thank you.
I know. I have a huge choice of friends that are all great. I chose you, Phil. I think that you definitely showed us that you can sit on the board of selectmen and be a leader. A leader is what's needed on that board.
Well, Tammy, we're going to continue the discussion, and we don't want you to be around when the bombs start flying. So
okay, well, go ahead. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You have a great night.
Thanks, Emma. Take care.
I know.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, now that we're back, you said we have somebody that chime in. Brian, you had somebody that wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, we got this Jeff Sullivan.
You got, who is Jeff Sullivan?
Jeff Sullivan. I've seen this Jeff Sullivan comment on Facebook. So
absolutely. Is he going to show video, or is he going to show his face?
Well, he hasn't put on his face yet.
That's not Jeff Sullivan.
That's good. That's George. Hi, George.
Hey, how you doing?
George Bogue is with us, folks. Did you want to chime in? Oh, there's Jeff.
Yep.
Hi, Jeff. How are you this evening?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us. You wanted to chime in and make a comment?
I just think that since we already have the process started, that we might as well adhere to the process. I mean, that's what we've started.
You're breaking up. You might have a bad. There you go.
Yeah. So we already have the process underway, and I think we need to see that through to completion.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Hopefully the message gets through with what we're saying here and what we're trying to get across in Phil's letter and what have you. And hopefully people like yourself will call town hall and complain. Just call the selectman's office and let them know. That's what I would do. I'd inundate them. Jeff, thank you very much.
if they want to add her as a candidate to consider for the position, I mean, I think that's all fair and good. But I don't think we should abandon the process at this point.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anybody have a question for Jeff?
No, I mean, I just agree with them. I mean, I've said all along, I thought that she should get an interview with the other finalists, but to just, throw them out now at the last minute, it's a travesty.
It is. Jeff, thanks a lot for joining us. If you want to chime in a little bit later, you can stay on the line. But I wanted to get into some of this. We've had a number of people on Facebook, Brian. I don't know if you can see those messages that we're getting. See that, Brian?
No, I can't. Well, I'm sharing it from my Facebook page.
Oh, okay. So we got a bunch of people that have been trying to say things. It's talking about how it's a travesty, and this is a political, a political appointment. I got to say hello to some people. Paul Kirka, how are you? Stephen Carl. We've got a bunch of people out here that are watching tonight. Audrey Perry, she hits the nail right on the head that Ann Vandal is really basically holding the town hostage and holding the Board of Selectmen hostage with this.
John, if I can, I thought it was funny because I didn't listen to the actual live version of Warren talk, but I heard later, and he was concerned about that group within his group that got Jesse to flip, and of course Jesse was supported by that whole group because they knew they could flip him, right? And they've done that in the past. I've sat on boards with Jesse, and he flipped on issues that was a pretty strong stand. And then when he was told what to do, He just flipped, and Warren's upset now because he's flipped on Warren with some other guys in this group. So he's just not dependable. He doesn't do what he thinks is best. He's influenced easily, and that's not what you want in any type of leadership role.
Steve Plant says she wants to thank Tammy for her service to the town, and she's been a real leader of the people, and that he's sad to see her go. And Nick Dristelera says, hi, Mom. Dave Greenwood is also on with us, and we got a bunch of people, a ton of people watching. I don't know if they want their names thrown out there. I'm trying to be a little bit fearful of somebody might get hacked upon because of this. But we've got a great following here. Folks, the problem is Jesse and Gordy, maybe you want to chime in on this. Jesse was coming across as a very professional member of the Board of Selectmen. And we were trying to find good in what he was doing, and he looked like this. It looked like he was going to really be sincere to this, but in true fashion, like Brian said, and like Brian has been saying right along, and I said it too. I said that he was going to flip because he's not strong enough to undertake the pressure that he's going to get from, as Warren Shaw says, the Dracut Hughes group. By the way, I was listening to Teddy Panos this morning, and after the Shaw was on the radio, and I sent a text through the Mill City line, and I said that finally something that Shaw and I can agree on. And Teddy didn't know who it was from, and then all of a sudden I texted back. I said John Zimmerman, and we got a good laugh out of it and what have you. But even a broken clock, Gordy, is right twice a day, right?
That's right. And I remember when you brought this up a couple months ago on the show, I think George and I agreed, George, back to your point, I think Ann Vandal should have been in the finalist. And we, John, you and I talked about this. We sparred a little bit on the show. We disagreed about this because, she went through the process. She didn't make the final cut. But since she had been doing that job, I thought she should be in there as a finalist at least. But Jesse this really comes down to anything in life. Just do the right thing, and the right things will happen. When you don't do the right things and you collapse under political pressure, this is the kind of stuff that happens. And now I think they're going to get themselves in hot water. We've already had, as you know, the scandal with the Attorney General on all this other stuff that happened over the past few months. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if the Attorney General or Inspector General get involved with this as well. We'll see what happens.
Well, here's a question. We've never actually seen a report. What if it comes out that she made mistakes during this whole procurement thing?
Exactly.
Well, I can speak to a couple of things. First of all, as a financial officer, this is why I'm going to push back to you and Gordy, George, that this is why there should be an interview process. And quite frankly, there was an interview process. That's what the Board of Selectmen charged that 5-person committee to do, and bring them the best candidates. She didn't hold up during those interviews enough for a majority of that board to say, let's move her forward. And I think that you're going to find in the end that not very many of them, if any of them, wanted to see her go forward because she did not shine in those interviews. And that's what the Board of Selectmen was trying to get rid of the shaft, so to speak, in this, the chafe. Get rid of it and move on. But the bottom line is, as an experienced Board of Selectmen member for 9 years, I know that she was involved with Dennis Pindak in budgetary decisions that hurt the town. One of the budgetary decisions was an explosive decision concerning the use of funds out of the Firefighters Insurance Trust Fund. They used $1 million to balance the budget one year. And we had an auditor and a lawyer come in and tell us that the town actually broke the law in doing that. And if the town firefighters wanted to fight it, they could have went to court, went to the AG's office, and we could have been fined 10 times the amount of money that they took out. That's $10 million. And to their credit, the firefighters didn't want to cost the town that kind of money. But I tell you this, I blasted Dennis Pindak on that. And before you know it, the money was put back in increments, but it was put back into the trust fund. That was the agreement. But that's one thing. The other thing that she did, and she sat there as a fiscal the fiscal officer. She has a fiduciary responsibility. And I like Ann. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to say it again. I like Ann, and there's nothing personal about this. She has a fiduciary responsibility to tell the manager or to tell somebody when they're doing something wrong. She should have known about that procurement stuff. Jeff is right about that, and so is it Gordy and George. We know that, Brian, to be true, right? Brian?
Yep, 100%.
George, what say you on that?
Well, again, I mean, I think she should have had a shot to interview, but again, these are the kind of questions that the board should have asked her about. You know, and I don't necessarily know if I would have voted to hire her, but the decision is the board. So, you know, they shouldn't necessarily farm it out to a committee. It's good to have the committee do the initial work and narrow the field. But again, the decision's the board. And I if I'd been on the board, I'd say interview her, but certainly not throw out all the committee work and just hire her.
Well, I'm glad you weren't on the board then, George. Brian, by the way,
that's not going to happen anytime soon either.
Rob Palmer, I see you're watching and you made a comment. If you want, I will say that comment over the air. Give me a thumbs up or something on Facebook and let me know, and I'll make your comment known.
Hey,
Rob Palmer,
John, while we're waiting here, I just wanted to show, bring up this photo. We had talked, you sent it over.
yes.
We want to share this right now with, this is your selectman, Joe Dracut, coming out of the town hall. First, he made a stop over at Town Hall West, spent a couple hours there, and then he came over to the actual town hall. And what's that paper there, John?
I'm going to give you a little background on that, Brian. Like you just said, I happen to be out and about. I've been socially distancing and being quarantined, but I do some rides around town. I have nothing else to do. I'm bored. But I was going to my daughter's house in Pelham, and I noticed Joe's car up at Town Hall West. And then I noticed on the way back that his truck was over there at, go back to that picture, Brian. His pickup truck was over in front of Town Hall. I went and did some errands 2 hours later. He's there. Then I find out that the letter was sent Monday to the Board of Selectmen. And lo and behold, I got a picture of Joe coming out of the town hall, by the way, with no mask, no gloves, and this piece of paper that I can only assume is the letter that all the members of the board eventually got. So it's typical Joe. It's typical control Joe, that he's behind the scenes. He's down at town hall. He sits in Kathy Graham's office. He makes his rounds to the different offices to sow his influence upon them and make them feel as though he's the guy that runs the town. And if you remember, what was the name of that show, George Bogue, I'm sure you'll remember, where they had Boss Hogg. He's one of the Boss Hogs in this town.
Dukes of Hazzard.
There you go, the Dukes of Hazzard. I knew you'd know that. Cool. Is Phil still with us?
Oh, I am. So, I mean, I just probably want to get to some of the things within Ann's letter too. I mean, she talks about how she doesn't feel she has the full confidence of the Board of Selectmen. I mean, at Monday afternoon, does she think she's still having the full confidence of the Board of Selectmen? Ultimately, I think Tony and Tammy, I think, have said, let the process continue. So, I mean, there's two votes that she doesn't, that will not essentially be in the favor of making Ann the town manager. I mean, and no doubt, I've seen this before when they're hiring people and, oh, we want to start off on a good foot. Why don't you change your vote so we can make it unanimous that we're hiring you, so you have our full confidence. Doesn't happen.
Right. Phil, you guys interviewed her, and I know you can't get into that. Before I ask you another question, Rob Palmer gave me the thumbs up, so I'm going to tell you what he said. Rob Palmer said, what do you expect from a guy who rides around in a golf cart, smokes and drinks while riding around in the golf cart, and he's an embarrassment to the town? And I believe he's talking about Jesse Forcier, and I think you know something about that, Brian, right?
Yeah, we had Jesse Forcier. He got stuck out in his development with his golf cart in an area he wasn't. It was conservation land, and he was all upset that we made a little video of it. Maybe if we could dig into the archives, we'll find that and post it again. You know,
We'll bring it up. Jeff, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, how do we know that these 4 people that were, the selected, finalists, how do we know that they're still interested in the job at this point?
Well, they haven't. We can ask Phil that, but I think just about the fact that they haven't withdrawn, and but I'm very sure they're.
To the best of my knowledge, there hasn't been any letter to ask to be withdrawn. Also with the pandemic and the orders from the governor, the people aren't moving from their positions very quickly. And I know one of the candidates had actually lost an election in in Amesbury. So he, at the time of the interview, was essentially unemployed. So I know that I'm sure all of them are still available.
Yeah, Phil.
I have a question. The
Go ahead,
contract they gave her with the pay raise, was there a time frame or was that open ended?
A pay raise for the interim job?
Yeah.
No, she got a pay raise for the interim job.
Right, but again, was that a limited contract? I seem to recall it was like open ended, that it wasn't, 60 or 90 days.
No, I think it was for the duration of the selection process.
Right, but now all of a sudden she wants to put a 60-day limit on it.
Yeah, but you remember, George, that when she didn't make the list of finalists, her professional and emotional self came out. She stormed out of town hall. She threatened to quit on the spot. She took several days off and nobody knew where the hell she was, what she was doing. It was like stomping her feet because she didn't get what she wanted. And again, I'm not picking on Ann. She's brought this up. She started this by having this letter, which I think is blackmail. There's stuff in that letter that if you read it, you should go online and read it. I'm not going to get into it, every nitpicking thing on it, but it's beyond. By the way, George, we can only see the top of your head. Can you adjust your camera so we can see your face?
We don't want to see that anymore. But
yeah. And
the cat keeps clawing me, so
you got a face only a mother can love. I know, but that's. But the bottom line is, she brought this on. She showed her ability to lead by. She didn't get her way. She's going to stomp off. Brian, do you have anything to say about that? Brian,
I lost you, John. Sorry.
I said, do you have anything to say about the way she stomped off?
Well, it's unprofessional, right? I mean, obviously, and it's none of that stuff. The fact of the matter is, she does not have an economic development background. It's not what the board was looking for, right? She does very well at her job that she has. She's looking for the high 3. That's why she wants 2 more years. She wants her high 3, and then she's going to get out and retire. And it's just another slap in the back of the taxpayers of Dracut for another pension that's like a golden parachute on the way out the door. And that's what they do. They take care of each other. And John, you had mentioned that, she also demanding to hire an assistant town manager, and, she's just going to move everybody up the ladder so everybody can get their high 3,
Yeah. Oh, Gordy, there are 3 positions that are going to need to be replaced if she made it. The position of assistant town manager is going to need to be replaced. The position of
treasurer,
not treasurer, it's financial officer.
Financial, and then the assessor. And we have a 4th one. We have a mandated, court-ordered agreement to hire a procurement officer. That's 4 people. You're thinking at least 400,000, somewhere in that vicinity. You're talking a $500,000 hit. In this time, maybe it's a good time for you to give us a little bit about your analysis of what the China virus is going to do to our finances, so people can understand that this 4 people you're going to hire, where are we going to get the money? The hit is going to go to public safety and schools. That's where the hit is going to go. Go ahead. Right. And, I did on our last show, I said I'd do a brief analysis of, how this crisis is going to affect our local tax levy. And I don't think it's going to be that great personally from, if people can pay their real estate taxes, people can pay their excise taxes, etc., which I think they're, hopefully that will happen. If not, they're going to end up having to pay it at some point. But the meals tax is going to be one hit where we get for sure. As you know, the restaurants are closed, so that's about $100,000. You're going to get, things that we normally get on a day-to-day basis, police pulling people over, giving tickets. So that's going to be about $30,000 in revenue that we usually take in. And the big thing is
state aid.
The state aid is going to be huge, because what I've heard is Massachusetts may be on the brink of bankruptcy, and it depends if they get a bailout from the government. If that doesn't happen, it's just going to trickle down, and the local municipalities aren't going to get as much aid. That's how it's going to have to work. So if we don't get as much aid from the state, I don't know where they're going to get this money. We don't have enough money in free cash, even to fill the gaps.
Okay, Brian, and we've got a question online from Tim Chase and a couple of others. What is Town Hall West? Why don't you give the people who the backstory?
Town Hall West is we're a group of folks that are like-minded, right? That we think alike, and then there's the other group that's like-minded, and those are the folks, Lucky Vicina, over there, and Joe Dracut and Jesse, and you've got Warren Shaw, you've got
Kathy Graham.
Who else? You got pardon?
Kathy Graham.
Kathy Graham's over there quite a bit. You've got the Housing Authority Commissioners, George Nagel. You've got the former chairman there, who is Russ Taylor. And they run their town hall operation out of an area over on the western end of town. We call that Town Hall West.
Now, Audrey Perry chimed in again and said that Ann and anybody who takes emotional time off has earned a certain level of criticism. What adults do? What adult does that? I mean, what professional adult does that? But I got to be fair too, because Kathleen Beauregard chimed in, and she's defending Ann, and I'm going to read the statement. And Kathleen, you're welcome to join us. If Brian puts a meeting up, she can join us and chime in if she'd like to. This is what Kathleen said. She said, she's doing the job of many, yet getting paid for one. That's not true, Kathleen. She got a pay increase to do the other two jobs during this time. So she's making more than enough money to do it. These times are trying. She has stepped in crap all over and fixed it all over, and doesn't even have the consideration of the job being done. Who wouldn't take an emotional time off? Well, most people in a position that has a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety, and you're busy. I think you got to be able to handle the stress. Phil, I'm going to turn to you. Do you think that the job is so stressful at this time when half of the town hall isn't even there, and people? We're not doing business as usual.
Yeah,
Right,
I mean, just look at anything in Dracut. Is anything normal here? So I mean, is there stress? Yeah, I mean, here I am, a small business owner in Dracut, and I'm stressed out that, hey, my family's a single income family. I'm the breadwinner, and my business has been cut down probably 50%, maybe more. I'm lucky enough to be able to still do stuff and have a few clients that are still paying. So, but I'd like to get on that point about professionalism also. I mean, as an architect, I have been a mentor to 24 architects as they've been, they come out of school, they do their internship. And I talk to them about, this is, some of the things you should be doing, developing yourself professionally. But my concern as a mentor was always for them, not for how can they help me. Unlike Joe Dracut, who has taken Ann under his wing as her mentor, but his concern is only for himself. I mean, if he really cared for her, it would be, okay, where do you go from here? It's not what can you do for me?
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yep. George, you want to say something?
Well, is it stress, or is it just she sees her leverage and she's trying to maximize it?
Well, you can't say that storming out of town hall and screaming and yelling and ranting and raving that,
Well, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like now with the letter.
Give me a break. She did that early on. That didn't show any professionalism.
No, but again, I mean, with the letter now, I mean, she's got leverage and she's trying to maximize it.
First of all, she doesn't have leverage because she only has leverage because we have weakness on the board. The strength on the board is Joe DeRocco. You got to hand it to him. He perseveres, keeps pressuring people, and he turns the pressure up. He knows how to do it because he did it before. He got Dennis Pindak at that 27% pay raise and extended his contract for another 18 months just to give him the golden handshake. And I'm going to tell you this, we predicted it already. Kathy Graham is next in line to be the assistant town manager. But that's also going to make other things. You got other people in the clerk's office that's going to get promoted, rightfully so, if the position's open. I don't begrudge that. But
Hey, John, you want another prediction?
Yes, go ahead.
By November, we're going to have a stormwater fee.
Oh,
If
Oh,
the
yeah.
ball's over on this one, we have a stormwater fee by November.
well, Phil, I'm not so sure that if you're on the Board of Selectmen that you're not going to stand up and.
Oh, I will certainly fight fight against that tooth and nail.
And the other thing that we already know hasn't been they've tried to pass a couple of times is a trash fee, and we know that she's been complaining about the trash. It's been at the Board of Selectmen meeting. The trash fees are going up. The rate, because the trash is going up. That's a signal.
Are you going to hear that same complaint often? Well, if we don't get this fee, I'm going to leave.
I feel bad. We haven't gotten to any of the national stuff or the state stuff, and we've only got about 4 minutes left, and I do want to make a couple more comments. But, the sadness of this thing is that all candidates for the Dracut Board of Selectmen were invited to come on here tonight. Correct, Brian?
That's correct.
And what was the response?
Well, Heather Santiago, what's her last name? Because she's been quiet. She responded. She's been working and she's coming home. She's got a Zoom meeting with some MDs and some nursing. So that's a pretty good excuse, although she probably wouldn't have came on anyway. Joe Espinola, I reached out to Joe. I haven't heard back from him. Mark Pease, I haven't heard back from him either.
He actually threw something out on Facebook that the new board should select the town manager.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. We're gonna hire two new selectmen. No indifference to, I hope Phil gets on there, but no indifference to present company. But people that don't have any experience in selecting a town manager or whatever, they're gonna now come in and have an effect on that. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that's this current board who has been dealing with the whole problems of the town for the last few years should make the decision. I think this board should do it. Don't shirk your duties. Don't put it off to somebody else. Don't be lazy. First, and the other thing I wanted to say is before we wrap it up, we got about a minute and a half to go. We need to realize that the business as usual is not the business as usual in Dracut because it's down. Meetings are down. Construction is down. Phil's an architect. He tells you everything is on hold right now. But Phil, I do believe that once this gets lifted, and I hope it gets lifted pretty quickly, there's going to be this pent-up energy that we're never going to see before, and it's going to explode, and you are going to recover, I believe, and I really do believe that. So,
John, I hope so. I had a few projects that we were supposed to jump into. One was about $800,000 down in Brookline. We had another one that was in the $400,000 in Boston. Those jobs are put on hold. Who knows what's going to happen to them now? But just got to keep moving, got to keep swimming, because if you don't, for a minute, you'll sink.
well, we gotta thank you all for joining us tonight, and I know that we're going to get cut off here. I don't know when. I thought that Nate would call me back. Nate, if you can call me back and tell me how much time we have. I have about a minute left, and we will be ending the show. But we had a great show. Very lively, very informative. We want to thank those of you that did jump in on the line. Jeff, thank you for joining us. Call in anytime. We'll be happy to have you on. Anytime you want to join us, do that. Karen.
Maybe we'll let Jeff close the show.
Yeah, Kathleen Beauregard, I'm sorry you didn't try to join. us, you can do that next time. And Jeff, if you want to close the show, or you've been watching us for a while, you want to say goodbye to the show and end the show for us?
Well, I mean, you know, it was good to hear everybody's opinions about what's going on, and I enjoyed being part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Gordy, why don't you put it away?
All right. As always, folks, thanks for joining us tonight. Remember, if it's Thursday and it's 7 o'clock, it's the Dracut Connection. Stay connected.
Good night, everybody.
Night all.
Mute those mics for a minute, and then we can talk a little bit after. I'm waiting to see.
John,
Huh?
you can't